If you're a songwriter who wants to write catchy storytelling songs that listeners just cannot get enough of and continue to play time and time again, but right now you feel like you're writing with inconsistencies, getting stuck halfway through your songs, or truthfully just feeling a little unsure with it all, and I want you to know this, we're actually not that far away at all, because great songs are mostly written with a process and not just luck. And in this video, I'm going to share with you a simple 4-part process that allows you to write hit-level songs time and time again, even if you're brand new and without the inconsistencies and feeling overwhelmed. Make sure you stick with me through this process because all 4 parts of this process then come together to allow you to write the songs that you want to. Hey, Danny here, founder of Songwriters International. If you're new, welcome. We help songwriters develop their craft by sharing tips, tricks, and techniques on all things songwriting so that you can go and write your best possible songs. Okay, so let's jump on into this. Step 1 is the pre-write. Now this is before lyrics, before melody, before any chords. What you need is a foundation, because the fastest way to write a bad song is to start writing with no direction. So here's the question that I want you to ask and that I ask at the start of every songwriting process. What do I want the listener to think, feel, or understand by the time that they've reached the end of the song? And I want you to answer this from the listener's perspective, because what we actually answer here, this is going to lay the foundation for the song. Here's an example for you. I want the listener to feel like love is all around them, in the sunrise, in the rain, in the birds, in the small moments, and that love doesn't exist only in a person. Now immediately, we're not just now writing a song, we're writing with purpose. When you write a song with purpose, lyrics become easier, melody becomes clearer, structure becomes obvious. Now once we've actually identified the answer to the question, what we're trying to say for the listener, we can then break that into portions of the song. So let's say for this example, we're going to use a traditional structure. So here we have verse, chorus, bridge, and then the final chorus. And what we're going to do here is assign each section a job. A little bit like when you get a cake and you cut it into portions and then you serve it out. That's what we're doing with our song. So we know that the overall message of our song is love is everywhere, not just in one person, but now we have to break it down. So verse 1 could be saying, you've been searching for the one, but you can't find them. The chorus then could continue that story forwards and says, love is all around, it's never just in one place. We then drive the song further forward with verse 2, and we say you start seeing love in everyday moments. And finally then we have a little bit of a twist in the bridge. You finally meet someone, but you realize love was already there. You didn't need them to feel it. And watch how powerful this is. You now have an actual map of your song. You have a journey. You have, more importantly, a direction that you're going to take as a songwriter. This takes no more than 10 to 20 minutes and instantly will eliminate writer's block, stop you repeating ideas, pushes the story forwards, makes the song easier to finish. Because the biggest reason songs actually stay unfinished, it's not because you're not creative, it's because you actually lack the journey first. And far too often, songwriters will go to the guitar, they'll go to an instrument, and they'll just start singing out on top of a set of chords. And what you're writing with there is no purpose, no direction. So what we should be doing is reverse engineering the process, start clear, then come here, and now we know what we're writing. Now, if you want help with doing this with your own song with me personally, I've opened up my calendar for a handful of one-to-one songwriting strategy calls with me where we can dive in to where your goals are with songwriting, what you feel like perhaps is holding you up a little bit, and we can map out a journey to get you where you want to be as quickly as possible and see how we can help. So if you want to book in that call, you can do in the description below or in the comments. Go ahead, click the link, head on over to the next page, book that call, and I'd absolutely love to speak with you. Okay, let's dive on into step 2, because this is where songs actually start to become addictive. Step 2 is melody. Now, if you want listeners to replay your song, if you want them to be singing it in the car, if you want to feel like your chorus is that explosive, catchy, hooky moment, then this is how we're going to do it with the melody. Because the very important truth that took me quite a while to understand is that melody is the hook of any song that you're going to write. Now, the hooks can come from anything. It could be a vocal melody, it could be a guitar riff, it could be a piano hook, it could be a set of strings, you could even do it in the production stage. But the way that we have movement between melodies, the way that we create contrast is going to be the same. They follow the same principles regardless of how we create that melody. Now we have three key pillars when it comes to melody writing. We have static, we have conjunct, and we have disjunct. The great thing about songwriting is that these are the three fundamentals that every songwriter uses when it comes to writing a melody. The songwriters that you absolutely love, the songs that you absolutely love, will have these as a backbone at some point in the song. Let's first of all dive into a static melody. Now, what is a static melody? It's a melody that sits fundamentally on the same note. It has very little to no movement within the melody. So an example would be just something like da 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 da. It's sitting on the same note. I'm sitting on the same note. Not much no movement. And a static melody is absolutely fantastic for when we have a storytelling melody. When we want the focus to be on the story and not the melodic movement, that's your chance to use it. Now we're going on to a conjunct melody. Now a conjunct is a little bit different to that of a static. It has ever so slight movements. It will move subtly between certain notes, but it won't have big leaps and big falls. So for example, it would be something like this. Da 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 da. You hear that little bit of a movement there, little bit of a movement there. That's a conjunct melody, great to use still in a verse, and also very good to use in a bridge or a pre-chorus. The sections that bridge a verse and a chorus together, which is a pre-chorus, they're really, really useful in those moments. And then finally, we're into a disjunct melody. Now, this one, as you can probably guess, has sharp, big movements. So it'll go from one note right up to the next octave higher up, or it'll have big movements in between each individual note. So something like this. Hey, I feel like I don't know why, got this melody moving now. You can see how that creates hooks, how that is so ear-wormy, as we would say as songwriters. Now this is great for a chorus, that moment where you want people to catch on, that you want to hook people in, and you want to have a catchy song. This is where we're going to use disjunct melodies traditionally. It's going to be in the chorus. Now the thing with disjunct melodies that work very well is that we reduce the complexity of the lyric. So in the verse, with a static melody, we might be wanting to tell a lot of story. But in a disjunct melody in a chorus, we typically are going to use simple lyrics that are easy to follow, and the focus is going to be on that movement that we have within the melody. And the really important part here that I want you to understand is that these melodies are designed to do one thing, and that's create contrast. That's to create change between section to section. If you just find that you're using a static melody in the verse into a static chorus, guess what we don't have? We don't have contrast. We're not going to have hooks. We're not going to engage the listeners in the way that we want to. So once you understand these movements, you stop trying to guess what's wrong and you actually understand what is wrong. You can then say things like, my chorus isn't lifting because it's too static, or my verses feel random because the melody is too disjunct, or your pre-chorus needs more conjunct movement to build tension. And that's what real control is. That is what real deliberate pros do when writing hit songs. Okay, so let's dive on into step 3, and this is the lyrics. Now, lyrics very simply is how we're going to deliver the meaning. It's how we're going to deliver the story. That question that we asked ourselves before, what do we want the listener to think, feel, or understand? This is now where we're going to get that across. So I want to share with you 2 techniques that will instantly transform your stories, that will instantly transform the impact that you have with your lyrics, and instantly transform your songwriting game. Now, technique 1 is a process that I've been teaching for quite a few years now. It's what we call surface level lyric writing versus beneath the surface level lyric writing. Surface level lyric writing is literally us writing what is happening. Beneath the surface level is where it might mean something emotionally, or we're trying to actually paint the scene or setting. So for example, a surface level lyric might be something like, I want to hold your hand. It's very clearly telling the listener it in a simple to follow way. Beneath the surface level lyric of that same lyric might be something like, lock your fingertips into mine. And by the use of the words lock and fingertips, we start to actually really paint a picture for the listener. Second example, lyrically, might be a surface level lyric of, the tree outside has no leaves. I am telling you it so simply, you understand, you follow. The beneath the surface level lyric of this would be something like standing naked with just a root in the ground. Now straight away, we've got the word standing, we got naked, we've got root, then we got the word ground, which solidifies the picture. So when you're writing and you perhaps use a surface level lyric, you can then look to explore this a little bit further. You can ask yourself, how could I push this? How can I do it? And a little tip for you is that the verses are where you're going to typically find more beneath the surface level lyrics. That's where we set the story. That's where we set the scene. That's where we paint the picture. But the chorus, the moments we start to use disjunct melodies and the focus is on the melody and the hook and not so much the lyric, that's where we're going to go for more of a surface level lyric. Now into technique 2, this is what we call relation writing. Now this is where we write lyrics that relate to one another within a line or a section of a song. Now a simple way for me to explain this to you is I'm going to say a few words and we're going to relate words back. If I said sugar, you might say sweet. If I said sweet, you might say candy. If I said candy, you might say popcorn. And then if I said popcorn, you might say cinema. Now you can see in some way how all of those words are interlinked to one another and relatable. How we started with sugar and then how we landed ourselves with cinema. This is how we can then use this in our lyric. So here's an example of this. If I had a lyric like, wish I was the glass you're holding, bringing me closer to your lips every time you take a sip. Straight away we have words like holding, because we hold a glass, bringing me closer to your lips, that's what we do when we actually take a drink, and then every time we take a sip. You see how those three lines are all interlinked together, and they create this subconscious connection between each line for the listener. And that's how we can use relation writing. A second example of this would be something like, you're the rhythm in my soul, the melody in my mind. I can't press pause, all I want to do is play. Now you can see this all has a musical theme to it. From rhythm to play to melody. That's how pro songwriters write songs. That's how pros use relation writing. Now into step 4, and this is very important, it's the structure. You have to think about this. This is the listener's journey. This is how they're going to get from not knowing anything to understanding everything about the song. This is how they're going to go from a verse to perhaps a chorus to then a verse 2. So this is how you're going to lay it out, and oftentimes structure can be overlooked. The structure itself is going to control how long your song is, when the chorus actually arrives, how fast that hook hits, how much story the listener actually gets early on. And in the first 30 seconds, if your listener is confused, they're going to leave. So we as songwriters must use the right structure to take them through the song, dependent on what we're actually wanting to deliver. I want to share with you the 4 forms that we can use as songwriters in regards to structure and how we can take the listener on their journey. So the first structure that we have is what we call folk form. Now this is best for deep storytelling. Now an example of a folk form structure would just be verses. It is verse after verse after verse. There's no chorus, but there is a progression in the story. Now, like I say, this is best for storytelling. When you have something really meaningful, really impactful, that's where we're going to start to use a folk form structure. The second structure that we have is A-B form. And there's only 2 main sections within this track. We have a verse and we have a bridge. You may also call this a middle 8. Now, how this typically works is you would have between 2 to 3 verses to start the song, and then you would introduce the bridge, and then you would repeat that process again. The bridge itself is just designed to be a breakout, to give the listener an escape for a moment. It's not a chorus, it's not traditionally going to be a hooky part of the song, but it is just going to be an escape of the repetitiveness of the verses. The third structure we have is what we call verse chorus. Now this is a classic, it's fairly self-explanatory, but it is quite literally just verse chorus, but also what I would suggest is that you introduce a bridge into the structure after verse 2. Otherwise what you'll have 9 times out of 10 is too much repetition, and that is a thing. If you have verse chorus structure, the listener likely will turn off if it's just the same thing time and time again. So around that second verse, give the listener the escape, let them hear a bridge, and take them somewhere else, and then bring them back to the chorus. And finally we have pop form. And of course, given the name, it is built to be a popular structure. It's built for hooks, it's built for repetition, it's built for those catchy songs. This structure looks like this: verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then we would traditionally finish off with maybe a double chorus towards the latter end of this song. Now this structure works really well when you want repetition, big chorus moments, fast payoff, strong final choruses. And a little pro tip on this is your second to last chorus with the pop structure is what we're going to call a dropout chorus. Now, dropout chorus traditionally is where we're going to drop out the instruments. So if we had a production that has a guitar, piano, drums, synths, we're just going to have a guitar and vocal for that dropout chorus, which is our second last chorus. Then we're going to build it up into a final big moment. So if you want to write hit songs consistently with the least resistance and with the highest level of chance of a great song at the end, then follow a process. Then from there, make sure you've got melodic catchiness. From there, make sure you've got meaningful lyrics. And more importantly, make sure you've got the right structure that takes the listener on a journey. Now, as I mentioned, if you want to book a call with me, you can do that in the description below. Click the link, head on to the next page, book a time and a slot. I'd absolutely love to see how we can put this into your songwriting and get you moving forwards and see if we can help. Now, if you want to see how I actually put all of this together into one full process and you want to see how I write songs, I've got a video that will come up somewhere around here. You can click. That is the complete process from A to Z of how I write a song. And I take these techniques, I put them into practice, and then it allows me to write a song. So go ahead, click that link, head on over to the next video. I'd love to share that stuff with you because it's going to build on from what we've laid here. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, drop a comment below for any other videos that you'd like to see. I've been Danny Boyle here, founder of Songwriters International, and I'll see you over on the next video.